Hello guys, we're gonna make the FB05 tier list. Disclaimer like every time, I haven't tested all the decks in the game, of course, and I haven't tested all the matchups. These are my impressions after a couple of weeks of testing. It's not the objective truth. These are my subjective feelings about the new metagame. Okay, disclaimer out, we can start. I'm not gonna rate every deck in the game and every leader. I'm just gonna rate the new leaders and every interesting leader that I think is gonna have a chance to compete in the upcoming scene. So, I'm gonna leave the new leaders at last. I'm gonna start with red decks. I think Jiren is not as good as it used to be, because unfortunately there's the new yellow SCR that gets rid of Jiren, so he lost one of his best matchups, and I don't think it's gonna be that good in the new metagame anymore, but I hope I'll be proven wrong because I really like this leader. As of now, it might even be in tier C. I haven't tested it, of course, and I don't think I'm gonna test it, but unfortunately Jiren is not gonna be a top dog anymore. The new U7 is quite fun. I wouldn't say it's a strong deck, but it's definitely a dark horse. The new Tensing combo can win against an unprepared opponent. It's quite strong, especially comboed on turn 3 plus coin or turn 4, going Kefla into Tensing into triple Tensing and Awaken on the turn and swings for like 6 times and pressure the opponent. And if he's gonna build a lot of defenses, you have your 3-cost Gohan that gives -10 to the whole board, and then you're gonna close the game on the following turn. So it's a quite fun aggro combo deck. I don't think it's either S or A, but it's definitely fun to play, so you wanna give it a try, for sure. I don't think any of the other red leaders have a chance in the upcoming metagame, so maybe the Daima can compete. I'm not sure, I haven't tested it. Technically, a mid-range build that can get to the late game can then slam a double Glorio on turn 8, but I don't think red has the tools to survive till turn 8. Either Dark Horses or Diehards only. It's either B or C. I haven't tested it though, so I guess tier C. I think red is like the worst color of the new metagame, but we're gonna see. I don't think starter Q is even playable, and I don't think top Q is playable, so I'm not gonna put those on the tier list. About Beerus, I think it's worse than U7 and on par with Jiren and Daima. So yeah, Diehards only. Especially in the new metagame, there are a lot of very fast aggro decks, and Beerus is not gonna survive those. Vegeta, it's okayish, but I think there's a better option, so I don't think anyone is gonna play the Vegeta on next set. So let's just put it at B, and that's it. There's a straight up better version, so RIP Vegeta. It's still strong because blue is a good color, but I don't think it's gonna top any events next set like it did in set 4. There are definitely better blue leaders. Gohan is not playable, Daima is not playable, it sucks. Black Goku, I think it's in Diehards only. Not a very strong deck, but quite fun. Got a couple of new tools, but it's not enough. I think it needs Zamasu Self-Awakener to compete, I guess. Till then, it's still gonna be in tier C. At least according to myself. Then we have Ripku. I think it's either S tier or A tier. It didn't gain any new cards, but the Southern City Shell is one of the best blue shells. It's not gonna be the best deck in the format, as it used to be in set 4, but it's still gonna be really, really strong. Not sure if it's S or A, because I haven't tested it. I focus on new leaders and old leaders that got new toys to play with, so I haven't tested a lot. I think it's gonna have a rough matchup into a couple of new leaders, so I can say he's not gonna be the best leader out there. For now, I'm gonna put it at A, but I can still change it later on. Trunks, I don't think it's playable. I'm not gonna put it in the tier list. Okay, Zamasu, I think it's really, really strong. I haven't tried it much, because I don't wanna play 40+ minute game in my pre-release testing. but I can see him being a meta definer deck. Like, it got a new 4-cost Zamasu that is quite strong, that's gonna grant him a 30k body on the opponent turn as well. And he's just really good at stalling the game out and then closing on the late game. It was already one of the best decks in the last set, in the FB04, and it's only gotten stronger. It really depends on the meta environment, but it's a strong leader for sure. I'd say it might be better than Ripku in the upcoming set, because it can face a lot of the new aggro decks really well. And it only struggles into late game decks like Androids and arguably the new yellow decks that can run the 4-cost SCR barrier Frieza. I haven't tested it much, so I'm just gonna put it at S. Then we have... Oh, about red, I don't think UI is a good leader at all. It dies to a lot of stuff, so... Yeah, I kinda forgot it, but I don't think it's good. You can put it here, but like it kinda sucks. Androids. S tier. Still the best green leader, I think. As long as the 4-cost twins are in the game, I don't think there's any green deck that can top this. Especially because every shell you fit in, it's gonna work. You can play it as pure androids. You can play it with the Earthling package that's gotten stronger in this new metagame. And you can try a lot of different styles that can hold its own against a lot of different leaders. And it can adapt to the metagame really well since set 2. So it's been a top meta deck for 3 sets in a row, and I don't think it's gonna change it. I guess it's still S tier, even though it struggles into a lot of the new aggro decks. That Zamasu does really well into it, but it's gonna feast on Zamasu players. So I don't think it's gonna disappear from the events. I guess in the recent sets, Bandai tried to approach the color differently by not trying to compete with the ramping of Android 17-18. But I think it failed last set, and I'm not quite sure if it succeeded on this set. I don't know, I still think it's one of the best leaders out there. S tier for sure. At least if you wanna play green. This is one of your best and safest bet, especially in the early stage of metagame. Then we will see. So I don't think Brawl is playable, it just sucks, 3 life. I mean, for the same reason, like every other green deck is not worth to try. I mean, nothing can compete with Android. You can take every leader deck and swap the leader out for Android and it's gonna be a better deck. I mean, Piccolo is for believers. I'm gonna put it in tier C because I know there are some Piccolo believers out there, so yeah, that's his spot. Green Vegeta and Gohan also got a couple of new tools, especially to deal with the new Green Goku leader. But I don't think I'm gonna play it over Androids anyways. Yeah, they're fun, not sure they're playable. They're definitely better than Broly. I've seen a few builds with Vegeta where you go down to 2 life and abuse the new package. But I don't know. I'm just gonna leave it here for now. Cell, no, I don't think Cell is a good deck at all. Yeah, that's it. Moving to yellow. Cooler. Biggest glow up with all the new additions, but I don't think I'm gonna put it in A tier. Solid B tier. I think it's fine here. It's fun to play, fun to pilot, and it can catch some opponents off guard, and it got a really good addition on the new set. I don't think it's gonna be a meta definer deck or a A tier deck. B tier is fine. I mean, it used to belong in C or D, so it's still a pretty big jump in quality, but it's not one of the best yellow leaders, especially considering the new Janemba. So yeah, I'll just leave it here. B tier is completely fine for Cooler. Frieza. Okay, I think Frieza is strong. I think Frieza is quite strong, especially with the new 1-cost Mecha Frieza. He can just cycle through his whole deck thanks to Zarbon and Mecha Frieza, and he can restand it at the end of the turn. So any opponents that cannot deal with 1-cost restand drops is gonna have a hard time into Frieza, because he's just gonna +2 every turn. And then the new King Cold as well is definitely super strong. He can swarm up to 2 to 3 pieces on turn 4 and 5, going King Cold into SCR or King Cold into Cooler, or even King Cold into the 40k Frieza. But still, I don't think it's S tier. There are better yellow decks, I think. So I'll just leave it at A for now. And I'm gonna leave at A even the Majin Buu Evil. I think they're almost on the same page. Used to be one of the best leader of FB04. I think it was the second best leader after Ripku. So I think it will follow in the new metagame. But it's not the best leader to abuse the 4-cost Frieza SCR. It has a strict game plan that involves swinging a lot to the opponent and going fast and using your tons of resources and swing to get an advantage and close the game on a big double strike. But unfortunately for Buu, there are a lot of new tools to deal with it. Yellow got Hell Rakshasa, it can completely nullify your all-in turn. Black got the new 1-cost spell that is gonna prevent your double strike from even swinging. The blue matchup is gonna be really tough, considering the new 4-cost Vegeta. Yeah, I think it's an A tier deck, not an S tier anymore. But it's still a strong deck, so I'm not gonna put it below A. Genio is like for diehards only. I think, like, I didn't even want to put a tier C. There are a lot of shitty decks down there, but it's not the best leader to run the Genio package. So I don't see why you should even play this leader. I don't think this is even playable, so I'm not gonna put it in my tier list. And Yellow Vegeta. Yellow Vegeta, I thought it was an S tier deck, but I don't think that's the case. I think it belongs in A. Got a lot of power from the new 4-cost Frieza SCR, of course, because the Yellow Vegeta game plan is putting down a lot of barriers, set up a lot of barriers on board, awaken, and then protect your life and protect your pieces with your spells. But the problem is you're gonna get starved out of resources really fast. When you're in control of the game, you're most likely not gonna lose ever, but it's not gonna be that easy to get in that part of the game where you're in control, especially because your deck is not stable at all. You need to draw a lot of key cards on the early game, like your barriers, your Bulmas, and stuff like that. And then you're gonna need to draw your spells in the mid to late game. So if you screw up your draw order, this leader sucks. If you don't play your SCR on curve, or your barrier Buu if you play that on curve, it's gonna be really tough to fit that in afterwards. And since it doesn't even run any searchers, the game plan is not stable at all. And this deck is gonna run a lot of +0 cards as well. So yeah, as long as he has the tempo, it's gonna be a good leader, but I don't think it's as consistent as it should be to be an S tier deck. And it's especially bad into Swarm decks, Swarm aggro decks. It cannot deal with a lot of attacks on the same turn. But still, I think it's a strong option. It's maybe one of the best A tier decks, so I'm just gonna put it here for now. Black decks are alright, I'd say. I mostly tested the new Gogeta, but other leaders are fine as well. So let's put it this way. I don't think Bardock is as good as the other leaders, but I can see it being a B tier since it is a black leader and can run the black shell that is really strong. I don't think I'm gonna play it over any of the other 3 options. I don't see myself playing... I mean, the new legend shenanigans with your 5-cost Bardock is not as strong as it should be. So this deck really needs a better Bardock crew support. So yeah, I'm just gonna leave it at B as of now, next to Kula. About Baby and Goku GT, I haven't tested these 2 leaders that much, but I think they're both A tier decks. I think Black is strong, and Baby can run both the Rildo package and the Value package. I think the Value package might be better on the next set. I'm not sold on the Rildo version, especially because the new 4-cost Vegito exists and because there are better aggro decks. But I haven't tried it. This is one of the leaders I haven't tried at all. So this is just speculation on my part. And about Goku GT, it basically works the same as Gogeta, but you have the leader effect of buffing your combo cards. So if you feel in need of that extra little push on the late game turns, Goku GT might be better. But overall, I think Gogeta is more versatile by having access to the coin every turn. Okay, so now we're gonna talk about the new leaders. Oh boy, this is gonna be a good part. So prepare your popcorn, and I have some maybe crazy opinions about the new leaders. Starting from the new red one, Goku Mini Daima. I don't think this leader is that good. I'm sorry guys, but it might not be a B tier. At least early in the meta, it's gonna definitely be an A tier. But going forward, it might even drop lower. Like, this leader seems fine on paper, but it has a couple of really big problems. Like, it can really thrive in an unprepared metagame, but as soon as you face a conscious opponent that knows what your deck does, the power level is gonna drop by a lot. And I mean a lot. Because you don't have many agency playing this deck. It's basically an autopilot deck. At least I'm talking about the aggro version. I haven't tried a mid-range one, but I think on a mid-range one, the old leader is better. So I'm gonna treat it as an aggro deck. It is gonna fast awaken and play Glorio Line into double strike and close the game out. That is a really strict game plan and can be played around in so many ways. Just by leaving this leader at 5 life on your Glorio turn, you can play a blocker before Glorio turn, you can play around Glorio with a lot of different cards like Hell Rakshasa, like the new Black Spell, and there's like a ton of ways to deal with this leader, and especially after Awaken, he's really weak to being pushed. So if you cannot finish your opponent, he can just kill you even from 4 to 0 life in one turn. A lot of different decks can do that. Because you run tons of comboless cards. You need to run Glorious, you need to run Double Strike, you need to run at least a couple of removal spells. You have maybe, I think, Pansy is core as well. And you need to run the plus 15 on offense spell as well. So those alone are around 14 to 16 comboless cards in your deck. That's a lot, and especially on the late game, your hand needs to have at least one Glorio and or one double strike, and I guess at least one of your spells. If you're taking into account 8 to 10 cards hand, you're gonna have at least 2 to 3 comboless cards in your hand. That's why you cannot afford to block a lot of opponents' attacks. So whenever you're facing a Daima Goku and he fast awaken, just swing face and he's gonna die. You just need to play around awaken turn. If he cannot play Glorio on his awaken turn, just swing face, pressure him, and he's not gonna hold. So that's the problem of this deck. And I think there are other better aggro decks. That's why I don't think it's an S tier. I'm sorry guys. A tier at most. I think it can succeed in an early unprepared metagame. I'm not denying it can top maybe earlier events. I cannot see the potential in this deck. Even though Glorio is such a busted card, it has some play around. And it's so easy to play around this deck. Like, so easy. So let's just put it in at the end of A tier. Oh boy! We have Blue. Vegeto. Okay, talking about aggro decks, this is a strictly improved version of Goku Daima. So it's gonna jump to S tier, of course. This is what an aggro deck should look like. Your 0 plus 15 spells works both on offense and on defense. So it's strictly better. You have Pilaf Recursion. You have Final Op. You're an aggro deck that can close the game with a average 116 to 200k swing, and on your awaken side you swings for 40. So yeah, this is super strong. I think it's one of the best leader of the new metagame. And I'm not sure about the matchup into Zamasu because I haven't tried it. So yeah, I think it's one of the best leaders. I'm not sure if this or Zamasu is better. It really depends on the metagame, I think. But I'm just gonna put it here for the eye. Where is the but? There's no but. Like, if you wanna run an aggro deck, forget Daima, just play Vegeto. Straight up better. Imagine playing an aggro deck that runs pilaf. You're never gonna get starved out. You can get out of resources ever. You just need one pilaf and you can close out the game. And that's it. That's the power of pilaf. This is not a Vegito deck. This is a pilaf deck. This is like the best lever we ever had to abuse pilaf. Like, straight up. You mill half of your deck, so you're gonna set up your pilaf loop as soon as turn 4. And then you can start pilaf into final op and swing for 60 at life every turn. And not a lot of opponents can deal with that. So, yeah. And you're not fragile. Like, after you're awakened, you maybe have an 8-9 cards hand, and you can protect your life really easily. Yeah, like, you're not fragile as Daima. Your decks consist mostly of 10k combo cards, so you're both an offensive powerhouse and really hard to finish off at the same time. Yeah, and I've seen a lot of people confused about milling being a bad mechanic, because they can see milling like key cards as super combo like a bad thing, but it is really not. Like, I think a lot of people are confused about what a random deck means. So, like, you can consider your milled cards as being the cards on the bottom of your deck if playing any other leader. Like, if I'm gonna mill all 4 of my super combos on my Awaken, that's the same as those super combos being in the last 10 cards of my deck if I'm playing another blue leader. So it's not really a downside, it's an upside only, because you cannot predict where your key cards are gonna be. That's why I don't think that the mill is bad at all for these decks. But it helps getting your pilaf loop online, and it helps milling key cards that you're gonna retrieve with your Candy Vegito and with your 2-cost Vegeta. So yeah, I think if this leader milled the last 10 cards of the deck and not the first 10, a lot of people wouldn't even complain, because they think they wouldn't have drawn into those milled super combos anyways, if that makes sense. And you have access to one of the most busted cards in the new expansion, that is the 4-cost Vegeta. That card is absolutely insane, even without the floodgate effect. Playing a 4-cost that is gonna bounce an enemy 4-cost and swings for 30 is such an insane tempo play anyways. And you even have access to the floodgate that's gonna shut down a lot of decks. Like, if you're playing against an aggro deck that's gonna swarm the board with low-cost attackers, you're gonna completely shut it down. Like Boo, Jinyu, even Daima to an extent. You can either play super tempo, playing Vegito into Vegito and then close out the game, or you can play Fast Awaken and then pilaf looping in the opponent face every turn and then close out the game really easy. Hence, I think Vegito is one of the best leaders of the new expansion. Mill 2 super. Yeah, and you don't care about milling super combos. You have recoverable 15k spells in your grave anyway. In this new set, your pilaf just became a better Margarita. Your pilaf for 1 mana can swing for 20. Can recover the plus 15 and swing for 20. Or it can buff one of your cards for 25. And Margarita is a boosted card by itself. And you can even use your buff on your leader if you want. More flexible Margarita. Pilaf is such an insane card. So yeah, like the best Pilaf deck, S tier. Definitely. I think Ringoku, as of now, is a strong deck. I'm just gonna put it at the top of A, because I'm not sure about the best list. It's quite hard. You have not a lot of spots, and you need to tag around the metagame. So in the early stage of the new set, I don't think it's gonna be one of the best decks. But moving forward, when the meta is more shaped and you can tag against the top decks, it's definitely gonna jump up to S tier. I can either put it at the end of S or the top of A. As of now, I think Android is safer, but Goku is really hard to play against. So it might feel better than it actually is, because it's such a unique leader and you need to adopt a unique strategy when facing it. You cannot just mindlessly swing at it and hope that things will work out, because especially you don't wanna let him go down to 2 life for free. you wanna make him pay to do that. And like half of his deck only works when he's at 2 life. Usually when he's at 3 life, you're just gonna go light on the first swing and then really heavy on the second one. It can be played in a lot of different strategies. It can be played as an aggro deck with a lot of destructive disco and SCR shenanigans with your 3-cost Goku swinging twice every turn. You can play it as a value deck with your Earthling package, your Hercule, your Chaozi, your full power spells, and your draw 1 cards, and you can outvalue opponents. You can play it like as a green Zamasu, if that makes sense. So it can be played in a lot of different ways. I don't think it can fit both playstyle at the same time, because the list is really tight, especially if you want to stay on 50. That's why, depending on the metagame, it might be a really good leader, but you need to assess the playing ground first. That's why I don't think in the early regionals, this deck is gonna win events or top that much. I might be wrong though. I still think it's a really strong leader. But yeah, as of now, if you wanna play green, I'd go for Android. Then, oh, Janemba. Okay, I think you might have noticed I put almost every yellow leader on the A tier tile. That's because I think Janemba is the best yellow leader we currently have. And that is gonna be a problem going forward, because it's just straight up generically better than everything else. It's a yellow generic good leader, and you can basically take every shell in the game, feed it with a Janemba leader, and you're gonna have a better deck than the intended leader for that shell. Like, for example, you can play a Ginyu list, swap out Ginyu for Janemba, boom, good deck. You can play a Frieza clan list, take out Frieza, play Janemba, boom. Might be even better than that, because you don't even need to set up for your King Cole turn. Like, usually when you wanna play King Cole, you need at least one Frieza clan on your board, but if you're playing Janemba, guess what? You just play a couple of Frieza clan, swing with the lead, untap 2, and play your King Cole anyways. When you're facing a Janemba, you don't even know what list he's gonna run. Like, what is he running? Swarm aggro deck, he's gonna play a mid-range deck, a value late game deck. What he's gonna do? It's quite unpredictable and super strong, and it might create an Android problem in yellow going forward. Better than almost every other leader. Yeah, I think it is. Like, even if there's no floating mana concept in this game, being able to play at 2 more mana per turn is just completely busted. But I don't think it's gonna be banned. Like, I don't think it's that strong to deserve a ban. It's certainly strong, stronger than the other yellow leader, yes. More versatile than other yellow leader, yes. But in the metagame, I'm just gonna put it below Vegito just as a rage bait. But it might even be at the top. I don't know yet. I don't know if it's gonna be the best deck in the game or just one of the top dogs. But it's definitely an S tier leader, at least from my test. Gogeta. I'd like it to put it at S to have one leader of each color in S tier, except for red, that I think is the worst color of the game right now. I'm just gonna leave it at the end of S tier. I think this leader is hella underrated. I don't know if it's better than Namek Goku, than Green Goku, so it might be below that, but yeah, I just think it's good. I thought it was like one of the worst ever leader to be printed, because it doesn't even draw on Awaken, but it's a good tempo deck. You just play Kakarot on turn 1 and just follow up with a Glorio or a Piccon, and then you're gonna play the SCR, and then you're gonna follow up with Ape plus another Piccon or another Glorio, because you always have the coin up, so basically your Glorio is always at 25k for 2 mana. Yeah, and that's just it. And then starting from turn 5 plus coin, you're just gonna drop the new 5-cost Goku, draw 2 cards, swing for 30, discard, swing for another 30, and you get the coin back up to be really defensive with your ultimate sparking. That's gonna shut down a lot of aggro strategies, as stated before. So yeah, you're just gonna play the whole game with 12 to 13 cards hand, and that's how you win games, by outvaluing and out-resourcing your opponent. But the problem with that is, being a tempo deck, if you're behind on tempo, it's really, really hard to get back on the game. I don't think it's gonna be like better than any of these 4 leaders, but it definitely deserves a spot in either S tier or top of A tier. I think it's the 3rd best new leader after Vegito and Janemba. This ranking can be overthrown by teching Goku better, so it can even be like this. But yeah, I think as of now, Gogeta is hella underrated. Every card in your deck replaces itself. You play Pikkon, draw 1. Most of the time, like 80% of the times, Pikkon is gonna draw anything. And even he can even search super combos. Like he can search other Pikkon, he can search for super combos, for 5-cost Goku, it can search for 10Ks, for Trash Talk, for Soul Punisher, and you always have access to the coin. And then you have the SCR that is gonna replace itself, and if it stays on board, like we all knows what unresponded SCR does when played on turn 3. It's just gonna snowball the game out of control for the opponent. And then you're gonna follow up with another A plus Pikkon. So that's another +1 in your hand, and a removal on the opponent turn, and 2 swings for only 4 mana. And then you're gonna play the 5-cost Goku, and that's not just gonna replace itself, but it's gonna draw 1 more card. And you can opt for restanding it by discarding 1 card, or you can just bang on the +2. So like, it does not feel that bad to play Kakarot on turn 1 on this leader, because every following play is gonna replace itself, and you're gonna build your hand size back to 10+ cards. I can see why they didn't give him a draw on Awaken, because the deck itself draws so much than every other deck, but it lacks a finisher. Like, it lacks a really high cost finisher. If this deck had 6-card Big Boss, it would be maybe the best deck in the game. But since it doesn't, as of now, it really lacks finishing power. And you can achieve that by playing Goku, but the problem with Goku is you're trading a finishing power for versatility. Like, having access to coin every turn threaten a defensive ultimate sparking. That's gonna prevent a lot of opponent plays. It's really hard to balance another world package with good stuff package, because the Gogeta list is really, really tight. And I don't think you wanna go over 50 cards, or you're gonna hard your chances of seeing Kakarot on turn 1 if you start first. And also, like, being black, you have access to 10x Kamehameha, and that's just an absurd card playing into aggro decks. 1 mana killed 2 bodies? Yes, sir. So yeah, I think it's definitely strong. I'm not sure I want to keep these 2 both in S tier. I can just drop Goku. I think Goku is fine at the top of A, and I'm gonna leave Gogeta at the last spot of S. I can take all of these leaders and put them at D tier, but I don't think we need that. Like, arguably a couple of C tier leaders are also D tier. I don't think you even wanna play anything below B. So this is my final placement for S, A, and B. Okay, this is it for me. So let me know what you think about my tier list in the comments below, and I'm gonna see you next time.